Hi, welcome to DramaMeans. We're talking about the 2024 US movie Didi. Today, drama means coming of age, drama means finding yourself, and drama means navigating through all of your own awkwardness.
And now for a little bit of a summary. During the summer before he starts high school, a young teen tries to find himself during the chaotic birth of the digital age. Armed with MySpace, Facebook, and YouTube, he attempts to discover friendship, love, and the acceptance of those around him, which doesn't always go completely as planned. And welcome to DramaMeans' 1-year anniversary, the place where you can hear us jabber on and on about international dramas and what are we going to do to celebrate a podcast about international dramas. We're going to talk about an American movie. Okay, fine. We've done it before. We did Deadpool and Wolverine. And now we are going to do Didi, which was an American release film. And independent, very different than Deadpool and Wolverine. Maybe the most opposite movie on planet Earth from that. And it might also explain how much we liked this one.
Yeah.
Because we didn't really love Deadpool and Wolverine. And Didi, on the other hand, I think we both left the theater very, very content, very impressed, and just overall, satisfied.
Yeah, so in my Mel checklist, all my boxes were checked in this one. From how relatable it is, how the story, unfolds, how the characters are developed. Every single character had a meaning, had a purpose, it was developed well, every character had their own voice. It was done so well that I could probably say, there wasn't anything I disliked about this movie.
I felt like they got the details right, but then also didn't lose the overarching thematics and story. Whereas some movies, like we talked about with the other one, details, all these fine little minutiae that you can enjoy at the cost of kind of coherent story. But here, it just felt like all the small things they paid attention to, but it added up to something. It amounted to something that was an enjoyable overall. And thinking back on it, as I kind of let it run through my mind and let moments run through my mind, I appreciate them even more. And honestly, this is one of those independent films. I don't say this about kind of indie films a lot, is I would 100% sit down and watch this again.
Yes.
And see what I missed the first time.
Yes. So I feel like we probably did miss things.
Well, there was a lot. I thought the details about, the Asian American family, the 3 generations in one household, the absentee father overseas earning money, it's super relatable. We know people like this.
Yes.
We've experienced a lot of these things that were in the movie, and it just felt like they just nailed the brother and sister dynamic, the son and mom dynamic, the mom and grandma dynamic. Everything in the family just kind of worked. It didn't feel over caricatured. It didn't feel out of place. It just felt organic and right.
Yeah, and I can literally put myself in the shoes of every character and feel like I understand where they're coming from, why they're saying the things that they're saying, how they're behaving. Although there are some parts that was so excruciatingly awkward that you're just slightly cringing, but also no, don't say that, or no, don't do those things, because we're here watching it. But a lot of times, thinking about my past, there are times when I've done things and said things that I look back and I'm like, why did I do that? I wish I didn't, and then being in the shoes of the mom and just completely understanding where she's coming from, and how a lot of times when you're a mom, you feel like you lose yourself, but you're so desperately holding on to what you want yourself to be.
It's all about identity. I mean, the entire thing is kind of about who do you identify yourself as in the world, and then who do those around you identify you as. And can you be more than one thing at once? And, I just feel like with the mom of it all, I really could see, spoiler alert, I'm not from an Asian American family, but I could see a lot of my mom in Joan Chen's character. Whereas you're pushing, you want the best for your kids, you're struggling, and you want to be a good mom, but you also want to be a friend to your kids. You want to be the type of mom that your kids will talk to, but your kids aren't always going to talk to you. And you also want things that are just yours, the way that she wants, to be a painter and she wants to be an artist. And I love the fact they didn't make her like a brilliant artist. Like when she shows him the painting, like the hands were a little wrong and
the
faces were a little wrong. And she's trying so hard and she's really proud of it and she wants validation, but she's also not, like, this isn't a story about her becoming a famous painter.
Yeah.
She's a mom and this wasn't the life she thought she would have for herself. But she's really trying on all these aspects, and you kind of appreciate it from those points and them keeping it real.
Yeah. And even like with the grandma, it's like, oh man, there are parts with the grandma that I'm like, I'm sitting in my own, like kitchen, and not necessarily my grandma, because I've never actually known my grandma, but my mom acts just like the grandma in the movie, and I'm just like, this is horrifying, but also super relatable.
Well, also just like the heartbreak of, she has that awful argument with Joan Chen and they're at each other's throats, which you don't see intergenerational all that much, of someone like Joan Chen screaming at the grandmother and like losing herself. Like that's why, Didi kind of stops. Wang Wang, whatever we want to call him. He's got a bunch of names in this. He's Chris, he's Wang Wang, he's Didi. Call him what you want.
Well, Didi just means younger brother.
I know, but that's his place in the family.
Yeah.
But when he watches his grandmother and his mother fight, like that is so out of character. And then the next time we see grandma, she's laying in the backyard helpless because she's taken a fall and laying in the yard for 3 hours. And then it all comes back to family. And it all comes back to this moment of how fragile this family is. And how this probably wasn't the life grandma thought she was going to have when she was a young person either.
Yeah.
I liked what you said about you putting yourself in the shoes of every single character. I think that's a hallmark of a great character drama like this, when you're doing an indie film and you're really hoping that your characters pull us through this movie. There's no explosions. There's nothing sparkling. There's no...
Well, there was an explosion at the beginning.
There was an explosion at the beginning. They did blow up a mailbox. It starts with the explosion.
Yes.
But there's no spectacle in the movie. You're really hoping the actors and the characters can pull you through this film. And the fact that you can look at it and go, oh, identify with that character, identify with this character. Oh, I understand what this one is going through.
Yeah.
Well drawn.
It's so good because, yes, your protagonist is a Taiwanese American preteen, teenager.
Teenager, yeah.
Yeah. But you don't have to be Asian to understand this. You don't have to be Asian to be like able to relate to this family, because there's so many like families that still go through and like, adolescent teens like go through the same things that he would go through. Like it doesn't matter what race you are. You still, have a person you're crushing on, and just like you're tripping over your own tongue and you don't know what to say and you don't know how to behave, even though you've thought out how you're gonna approach that person. So it's just like, it just kind of surpasses like, the racial thing, the gender thing. It's all like, I feel like that's why I say everyone can relate to this story. Even if, say, you're not, like, maybe you're more studious, maybe you're more, like, popular and you're not awkward. Like, it doesn't matter. I feel like everyone has gone through stages and emotionally, at the point of how he's feeling, or even other characters are feeling.
Well, we're all awkward and we're all kids and we all make mistakes and we say the wrong things. And the overarching theme of this really is, you know, we all get labels put on us. Whether you're the mom, whether you're the Asian kid at school, whether you're the tall, dorky kid at school, whether you're the athlete or whatever, we all get these labels and we don't always like them. Even ones that seem positive. We all just want to be seen as, especially when you're young, you kind of just want to be seen as someone who can belong. And so any label that's placed on you makes you stick out, which is a bad thing. You're so desperate to fit in. And I think the brilliance of this film happens really, really early, where he's walking with his friends. He's hanging out with one of his friends, and then the third guy arrives, and he gets kind of pushed to the back row. His two friends are walking in front of him, and he's walking behind them. And they're talking about going to this party, and they know everybody at the party, and they're going to do this, they're going to do that, and they have all this confidence that he doesn't have. And it immediately sets him as the outsider looking in. And he so desperately wants to fit in wherever he can, and he doesn't even know where he wants to fit in. He just wants to fit in somewhere.
Yeah.
But who doesn't want to be seen for just something other than the thing people have labeled you as?
Yeah, definitely. It's funny because, yes, this was set in 2008, and we see MySpace and Facebook, and like he had to create his own, like a brand new Facebook page because he didn't have one like everyone else.
We also had to make himself older in the Facebook page, right? He changed his birth date in Facebook to make himself older because the kids are older. You know?
And so it was just interesting because I like by this time, we were adults already in 2008.
Yeah.
And I still remember, like, I literally had a friend that had to like bribe me to start a Facebook page of my own because I was like refusing to.
Well, it's that beginning. Everything was so new. I mean, you think about this time, iPhones weren't exist, like smartphones.
Yeah.
The closest thing to a smartphone in 2008 was a BlackBerry. And I'm trying to think of what year that even came out. But like he's got a flip phone and they're using T9 text.
Oh, yeah.
Like when he's trying to text Maddie and he's using T9 and his buddy's just like, oh, why are you so slow? Like that was me. I could not do T9 text. I had to turn the freaking thing off. And other people are just like, whip through it.
Well, I remember at that time, the first, at that time, maybe like a year before, there was a Nokia that had the full keyboard on it. It was also like it was like the first MP3 player / phone.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And I had that, and it was like, but the thing is, what I was trying to get at is that even though we were already adults in 2008, we could still feel, like this could easily have the feels of like, set in the 90s or the 80s or even the 70s. Like it has that nostalgic feeling to it.
Oh, you could absolutely just put yourself into what was it like? We can go back to when we were that age and go, oh, AOL chat rooms and dial up and Minesweeper and, Jezball, if anyone remembers that one.
I do not know
that was another default game that came on computers. We can go back to that, Oregon Trail and real floppy disks that really flopped. Like we could go there. But the nice thing was that they showed us their version of it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I've ever watched kind of the coming of age of the 2008 before with this kind of idea that, like half of your life is on MySpace now when you're 15.
Yeah.
And he has a YouTube channel. He has to go home and quick delete all of his dumb videos off his YouTube channel so the other guys don't see anything but skate videos.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just like, it's so understandable. Like you could say, I could see a lot of people out there not liking the movie because not really liking his character because he lies, to like
through his teeth.
Oh yeah, and he like, tries to make himself like, likable and like more popular, but it's also like, don't tell me you've never like stretched the truth to make yourself look better. Like I feel like that aspect, it's also very relatable.
Oh, I think that's where it really got me, was like all the mistakes and all the lies and just trying to be cool when you're so not cool and doing things that you think are cool that are so not cool. Like he kicks his mom out of the room and all the older guys are like, dude, that's super whack. Like you're, what did you just do, man? Like,
Yeah.
I know you were like, oh, my mom's embarrassing me. And that's what you like thought. Like, it's almost like you looked at them like, right, guys? And they were all like, that was a real douche move, man.
Yeah. And also, like, when Fahad had asked Chris about Maddie, and he was like, "Oh, she totally touched my
Wiener.
Was that what he said, or balls? I don't remember.
I think
Dick, we
yeah, whatever
it was." And I was like, I literally turned around and I was like, "Don't say that. That's gonna come back and get you."
But I'm honestly glad it didn't come back and get him, because I thought that was a way they could go with the story of her, like, basically, like, oh, you told the whole school that I like touched your willy.
Yeah.
And honestly, that feels like something that would happen in a movie, less than it would happen in real life, and they didn't go that way.
And opposite, she told everything to her friend.
Yeah.
And it was just like, yeah, I definitely like that. It's not necessarily a twist, but like kind of a turn in the situation, because I was expecting where, like, it gets back to her that he's been talking like bullshit about her and stuff, and it didn't. But yeah, I could totally see that, like, in a Hollywood blockbuster movie, that would be the
that would be where they went. Yeah, like a teen sex comedy that definitely goes that way.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, it felt like they went a much more organic thing where he said something stupid to a buddy.
Yeah.
He was trying to make himself look more cool to his friend because he was embarrassed in the moment, and he's embarrassed about it even after. But I also like how they were both really awkward in that scene.
Yes.
And the thing that hit me is when she tells him that he's pretty cute for an Asian. And like, it's like a real cringe moment, like as an audience member, but also for his character, who doesn't want to be seen as the Asian kid. He goes home every day and he's like, I'm the Asian kid with the Asian parents who lives with the Asian grandma. And then the girl I like said I'm pretty cool for an Asian, or pretty cute for an Asian. And then she like goes after him in that moment. He's got to have this mixed feeling of like, oh, this is weird. Yeah. Like, on top of all of my awkward teenness, there's also an identity thing here that you kind of triggered, that they don't overplay. They never overplay anything here.
Yeah. And the thing is, yes, as an audience, we're like, oh, like, it was almost like a gut punch, right? But then, if you think about it in her point of view, because she is also awkward and she is also nervous, and she is interested in him. Like, to her, she doesn't realize that is like not, especially in that era too, in that generation. Mm-hmm. She truly 100% thinks that is a compliment.
Or she didn't even mean to like add Asian onto it. Like, it was a mistake. And if you were to ask her, if her friends were to ask her later, like, I shouldn't have said that, because she texts him and she's like, did I screw up? Did I make a mistake? So she's rethinking it too. And I like that they can play the awkwardness from all sides. And it's not just, oh, here's this dorky kid who's super awkward. It's like, no, adolescence is so awkward. Like if you see these kids on the street walking home from school, they are awkward. And that's the way we were. And it's just, I don't know. I think that's why it's so relatable. It doesn't matter if you grew up in a technological age or you grew up before the internet and cell phones and everything. Like, you can totally relate to that awkward moment when you were 15 and you were like trying to figure out how to kiss a girl. And we didn't have necessarily YouTube tutorials, but we had the equivalent. We had porn buried in the woods, guys. If you went in the woods, you found dirty magazines. I know the kids out there listening don't know about this, but any woods in the 1990s had porn in it.
Well, I didn't live anywhere where there were woods. It was my best friend and I dug through my parents' closet
Into the nudie stash?
Yes, into the nudie stash. And so we, you know, as young girls do, watch porn together.
Weird. Boys don't do anything like that.
Well, you guys don't watch it together, maybe.
No, 100%
Totally
probably
together?
do. Yeah.
Okay.
I was this is self-admission, I was at a party in high school at this guy's house. And we were all hanging out at his house and swimming in the pool. And we were probably 17, 18 years old. And someone goes, "Put on the porn," right? As a joke. And this dude just reaches over and puts play. Because he was been watching porn. It was already queued up. And we all went, "What?" And there are now 20 people at this dude's house, his parents' house, watching porn. And I think about 2 minutes in, he realized what he had just done. And he got so embarrassed. He went up to his room, locked himself in. We didn't see them the rest of the night.
Wow. See, yet again, another very embarrassing moment that you forget that you don't want to do that, or it doesn't click yet that you shouldn't do that or say things. And it's just.
He thought he was going to be the king of a party.
Yeah.
When he clicked that on. Someone's like, "Turn on the porn," and everyone's like, "Yeah." And then he's like, "I'm going to be the king of the party." Oh, that's awkward.
Yeah. So when he said that in front of those girls with Fahad, I forgot what the girls' names were.
Are you talking about the squirrel story?
Yeah, the squirrel story.
Yeah, the most awkwardly told story about the most awkwardly horrible thing.
Oh my god.
It doesn't make anybody in the story look cool.
At all.
At all. And then, like, the end of it, he's like, "Yeah," and then we blew up the squirrel in the mailbox. You're like, "No, stop telling the story. Stop telling the story."
Yeah.
But I do think, like, it does speak to something about how trying to look cool is never cool.
Yes.
And I think that might be true for any age. Anytime you are like, "Hold my beer, I'm about to do something cool," you are actually about ready to make an ass of yourself. You just don't know it yet.
Yeah.
And maybe that's another reason why it's so relatable, because I am such a firm believer in that no one is cool, because thinking you're cool is kind of lame.
Yeah. And this goes back to, like, when I was saying when the was it Everybody Loves Me, where the female protagonist, like, pretends to be the girly girl and the damsel in distress to, like, try to get the guy to like her. And it's the same thing. It's just that they're already in their 20s and graduating college and being in the real workforce, and she's still that way. It makes me, like, think, like, what were you doing when you were younger? Because you should have gotten that out of your system. And I know everyone at every age can be awkward. It's just, like, I don't know. I really like the fact that in this, it was like, you're in your teens, he hasn't even started high school yet.
No, I like how it felt really appropriate to the age.
Yes.
And it felt like someone really understood what it was like to be 15 and not 2021.
Yes.
And the importance of, like, your relationships when you're 15, how important they feel in the moment, and how, as far as your whole life goes, maybe not that important.
Yeah. I say this to my friends a lot whenever they go through breakups and stuff, or, been burned by a friend or whatever it is. And it's just like, people come and go in your life. And even though maybe there are some people that you really wanted to keep in your life forever, and it just turns out that they're not, they're not gonna be. They have their own lives, they do their own thing, and you guys just grow apart or whatever, or they betray you, whatever it is. I feel like everyone comes into your life for a reason. Let it be for you to learn about yourself, learn about what you want in life, or teaches you a lesson. Like, I've had some really good mentors that I've learned a lot from that I, like, no longer am in contact with. I've had some terrible people who has, like, backstabbed me, but I've, like, learned, like, what to look out for, or, like, how I want to be treated, and how, how a relationship, like what I'm seeking, things like that. And I feel like this story says a lot about, like, he comes across certain people, and like whatever his relationship will end up being with like Fahad, even though they had their kind of like fight or whatever it was, or their falling out. And then those skaters come in, and it kind of like lets him kind of understand, like, oh, I want to go into visual arts later, even though they don't become like his friends for a long period of time. They entered his life, and he learned something, like what he wanted, like later in life, what he wants to pursue. That's freaking fantastic. It doesn't, like, relationships don't have to last forever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And on the other side of it, just because you are trying to grow and find yourself doesn't mean you actually have to leave your friends by the wayside. It doesn't mean those people hate you all of a sudden because you had a tiff. Like, you're friends for a reason. Like, those were his boys at the beginning of the film, and I love how they don't have to have a tearful reunion. They just have to have that look. Like, he looks over and the one dude smiles at him, and then Fahad kind of gives him like the sup, not being a dick. It's just, no, we're still fine. And you can sign up for visual arts and you can be this person you were with these skate kids. I'm still going to be your boy. We're fine. And I think people, when you're young, you kind of think of everything as like, on or off. It's very binary in a way of, if I'm these people's friends, I can't be in this group. If I'm a jock, I can't be a skater. If I'm a skater, I can't be, a nerd. It's like, no, you can kind of move in and out of these groups. And that's what I thought the movie did so well. He struggled to find where he was, and he doesn't have it figured out at the end of the film at all. But he does have one thing maybe figured out. He does overcome a thing or two, but he doesn't have to throw everything he's been up until this point away.
Yeah, and that's what I like about it too. It's not like when you watch a normal movie, you're like, oh, it's either a happy ending or a sad ending. And this is just a representation of life. So your life doesn't end just because, some shit happened and like your friends leave you or whatever, right? It keeps going. And so it's never like an ending. And so I like that this movie didn't really necessarily have an ending per se.
Oh, I would argue it 100% has an ending, but I would argue it ends at the perfect time. And I think so many movies we watch don't know when to end. And this whole time he's trying to figure out who he is. He's a nervous ball of nothing. And he's just fake it till you make it to the extreme. I'm going to be a skateboard video and I'm going to represent myself as something different than I am. And I'm going to try to impress everybody. And I'm going to try to always say the cool thing. And at the very end, he's like, no, I'm kind of an awkward dude and I'm interested in visual arts. I've realized that. And I'm going to go and like man up a little bit with Maddie and like try to repair it. And does he get the girl? Absolutely not.
Yeah. I mean, yes, the movie ends, but I'm saying, like, in terms of how it ends is the same way how I think about like life goes on.
Absolutely.
Where, you're going through life and some shit happens and you're not happy with what that happens. And it's like almost as if he's felt like he's hit rock bottom and he just needs to rebuild his life again. And that is kind of where the movie leaves us, is that.
No, interesting.
Yeah, so it's like he's now at that part where he's like, I need to rebuild my life. It's like a new start. I'm starting high school. I'm joining a new club. I'm rebuilding my life. And the thing is, in your life, you will go through this over and over again. You will hit rock bottom and you will have to rebuild again.
See, I think maybe we're just talking about difference in terms, because I think we're saying the same thing. For me, I didn't see it as he's hit rock bottom and he has to start over. I was seeing it as he went through all this shit. He went through this summer of awkwardness and he came out of it just a fraction more mature than when he went into it. So it's not necessarily rock bottom. I don't think he regressed. I think he actually tried a bunch of things, tried to figure out where he could belong, figured out that his family actually is a support system. Like, it's this small thing. His sister comes through for him when he needs it. And his mom does come through for him in these key times, like the moment when they go to McDonald's together. And like they have these huge knockdown, drag out fights where he can say to her, I fucking hate you. And then she can say back to him, I am so proud of you, but damn, you are stubborn and difficult too. And they can come to these things. And so when he goes to high school, he's going with kind of this new attitude, because the kid that goes up to Maddie and says, hey, sorry, still doesn't have all the answers, still doesn't do it right, makes an excuse, oh, I've been busy about this, but he's pulling this courage to like confront and tell her, and like she's the one that kind of asked him out before, really.
Yeah.
And now he's going to her saying, hey, maybe we could hang out sometime. And she's like, you punched my friend, why would I want to hang out with you? And he's just like, yeah, kind of fair.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
But also, her friend really fucking deserved to be punched.
Yeah, but does anyone deserve to be punched? Like, again, teenage kids say a lot of shit. And he, like, punched the dude in the face. And if, like, someone punched your kid in the face, you'd be pretty pissed off about it.
Yeah, as a parent, yes.
Yeah. And as a friend, if someone punched your best friend in the face, you would be like, it doesn't matter if he was making fun of him. You're like, no, you punched my friend in the face. All I'm saying is that, for me, it felt less like rock bottom than it felt like, yes, he's getting a reset, but he's getting a reset and he's 5% more wise than he was before.
I do agree. He's like more mature. I mean, yes, very minuscule more mature than he was before. But I do feel like it has a feeling of rebirth.
No, absolutely, 100%. And what I love what you said was, this is a cycle he's going to go through, and we all go through during our entire lives. When you think about it, you think about your childhood, and then your adolescence, and then your high school teen years, and then your college into adulthood years, and then your midlife crisis years, and then your retirement years. We never stop rebooting.
Yeah.
Our whole life. And again, maybe that's why it feels so universally appealing, because you could look at this and you could do this movie about someone going through a midlife crisis. You could do this movie about someone who's about ready to retire and lose their identity as a working person. It just happens to be about a 15-year-old boy.
Yeah. Is he 15?
That's about the age you are when you start high school, right? 14, 15?
I don't know. I was always a year younger than everyone else.
Well, I turned 16, I think, after my freshman year of high school. And I was kind of older than everyone else. So I think, yeah, 14, 15, you're clearly a teenager. And you know, but you're not driving yourself yet.
Yeah.
Like you haven't gone through all of your awkward phase yet. So I don't know, there's just so many good points. And when I say, I think it ended in the right spot, because he does make a couple of key decisions about, all right, no, I can say what's up to my buddy, I can talk to the girl, and I can sign up for AV Club. That is not something he may have thought he could do halfway through the movie. I can go to dinner with my mom because she needs me and I need her. And that's it. We don't need to say anything else. And then 20 years later, he becomes the most prolific skating filmer of all time. Shut up. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it just felt like there's so many. And he got the girl, and they got married and had lots of kids. Shut up.
Oh my God. So I'm so glad he didn't get the girl, because as we said, like 15 or whatever, right? And it's just kind of crazy to me, because I feel like a lot of movies now, especially some of the Asian dramas that we watch, they fixate themselves on like the first love, and they put so much like emphasis on like how pure the first love is if you end up with your first love, right? And it's so weird to me. And the thing is, when we watch these dramas, right, all these actors are like mid to late 20s or even in their 30s, and they're still playing high school kids. So we, as an audience, see these like 20-year-olds and we're thinking like, oh, that's like high school age, right? And then we're thinking like, oh, it's so great if they like end up together. They start dating while they're in their teens, and then they get married, and then like you can say, oh, I married my first love. And I'm like, if you look, this actor, he's a teenager, this in this movie, he's a teenager and he is young. These kids are young, and it's so weird and creepy to think, they should find the person, their significant other, at this age and be with them for the rest of their fucking lives. And I'm like, that's so weird and creepy.
It is weird and creepy when you like try to attach that to people this young.
Yes.
Like, it makes me think of like the olden days when they would like arrange marriages for 14-year-olds. And you're like,
know.
When you think about that, you're like, oh, that's so gross. But it's also this pure first love culture, this idea of the person you meet in freshman year of high school, the girl that sat in front of you in class, now has to be influencing the rest of your life. And it's such a strange idea. And it's only because of proximity. You didn't choose that person. That person sat down next to you and they're cute and you got smitten and now you're together forever. And like, it happens. High school sweethearts happen. But I do think, again, age appropriate for this, 14, 15 years old, putting the pressure of, my first love, like he put the pressure on himself as if it was going to be some great love, but it wasn't.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like at this age, you don't even know who you are. You don't know who she is. You don't know how she's going to become. You don't understand like what she's going to encounter in life to become an adult, and like how she behaves as an adult. And you don't know that as an adolescent, because a lot of shit can happen in your life, and what your interests are, what you like, how your personality is. It's not going to be the same. And so by the time you're like 25, you two could be totally different people, and you might not like each other. That is why it's just such a weird thing to put such an emphasis on like your first love and true love at such a young age.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And I think they handled it perfectly. I really like that last scene between them because she's not like overly bitchy. He's not overly suave.
Yeah.
And it's a moment between two teenagers. They're starting high school. It's first day of school. And he's like, I'm going to get this start off on the right foot, and gets rejected. But kind of is like, fair enough also. But like asking was kind of the mission. Was kind of, he needed
closure
to close that chapter and not just be a dick that ghosted her.
Yeah.
And then again, like just the look with his friend, and he signs up for the AV club, and he's like, okay, I'm starting the very first steps of figuring out who I am. And I do think that we're all allowed, especially when we're young, lots and lots of mistakes. And like, this movie is so filled with shit he says that he should have never said, or things he did. You shouldn't pee in your sister's lotion.
Oh my God, that was so gross. I literally looked at Ryan like, would you ever do this to your brothers?
I can't say I would.
It's like, it's yucky. I don't know how anyone even thinks to, and I'm sure there are people out there that would think to do it, but I'm like, how do you even think to do that? That's so gross.
I mean, I do think sometimes siblings do pee on each other. Allegedly. But story for another time.
Oh God. Yeah. So, I don't know. I don't think my sibling did not ever.
Well, you grew up, I think the big difference with you, your sister's so much older, and so it's really hard for you to kind of picture an adolescent relationship when you're both going through it. Like, she went through it, and then you were going through it when she was much older, and you were the kid's sister, right?
Yeah.
Whereas when you're 4 years, apart, like these two, she's going off to college, he's starting high school. She's the asshole older sister, and he's the bratty younger brother. And they still love each other, even though they hate each other most of the time.
Yeah.
And I really liked that relationship. I did think the lotion thing was a little far.
Yeah.
But saying that, it's a movie.
Yeah.
And they were kind of, swinging big with it. And I did really like what their relationship evolved into. And the goodbye also, just, it felt like they just didn't overplay these moments that lesser films overplay. Like the goodbye between the brother and sister when she goes off to college felt so real and right. And it was like there's a love and respect, but also a begrudging love and respect. But she's still going to hug him. And he barely kind of hugs her back because he's a boy.
Yeah.
And he's not going to show that much emotion. It's just, everything felt like it was done at the right temperature for the subject matter and the age of the characters and the pace of the film. And also just a really pretty movie. It was shot really well. Like, I felt myself watching this, kind of just enjoying all the aspects of it. Good acting and cinematography and story and locations and nostalgia and everything kind of all weave together.
Yeah.
But again, it starts with the characters.
I really, really enjoyed this. I think one of my favorite things is, the sister coming in and like realizing, oh, my brother needs me. I need to step up and like see, what's going on with him, and like, covering for him after, him getting high. Like, that's awesome. My sister would never cover for me, especially at that age.
But I think like she really had that moment where, it's the normal brother sister banter, and he's just like losing it, and he's just like, why the hell are you such an asshole? And she's like, oh, this isn't, it's kind of like when you're play fighting with someone and then you realize one of you isn't playing anymore.
Yeah.
And that something is actually really wrong. And the fact that she had the self-awareness to go, oh, there's actually something really wrong. This is just how we talk. Like, I call you an asshole, you call me a bitch, and I call you a dick, and then, it's just this back and forth that brothers and sisters have. And then she was like, oh, he's not playing anymore. There's something else here.
Yeah.
And her tone really changed, and she, was the more mature of the two because she needed to be.
Yeah. That was my favorite. And then the mom and grandma scene, like, I was in tears.
When they were fighting or when they finally came back together?
When they were fighting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also how like she lit up when the skater guys were like saying how good her art was.
Uh-huh.
I could see it, If someone told me they really liked my podcast, I'd be so ecstatic.
Not fishing or anything out there.
Hint, hint. Yeah, so.
No, but it's the one thing she wanted to get recognized for something other than mom duty.
Yeah.
And like just a small, tiny, like, who are these kids? Nobody's. They don't even take their shoes off at the front door.
Oh my gosh.
Talk about a gasp. Talk about a theater gasp. I could hear it all around me.
It was true. And I looked at Ryan and I went, oh, and then I was like, but in my head I was thinking, why didn't he tell them to take their shoes off?
No, you can't tell them. They're the cool kids. Like, you can't be at the door because, like, guys, can you please take your shoes off at the door and then put on these house slippers? Like, he's not going to do that.
Yeah.
He should have.
He should have.
But he did not.
Yeah. But anyway. So, as you can tell, we really loved the movie. Are we ready to rate it?
I think so. I mean, all I really was going to say, other than what we've already covered, is we couldn't really think of a lot we didn't like about it. As we were discussing, of like, oh, what did they kind of miss the mark on? And I couldn't really think of anything, or at least it didn't stand out for me yet.
Yeah, I was actually looking on IMDb, and the rating wasn't as high as I thought it was going to be. And weirdly, like, I was looking, like, I think Rotten Tomato has, like, a way higher...
The critic score or the audience score?
I think both. Both were, like, in the 90s or something like that. But then, on IMDb, it was only, like, 7 point something. And I was like, that's too low. And then a lot of reviews that I kind of read were like, oh, it's like your typical coming of age story, blah, 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 right? But I'm like, yes, it's a coming of age story, but I feel like they really did it right. just in all aspects. I think maybe that people didn't like it is because his character is like in kind of a gray area of likability in terms of like, oh, he lies a lot, he's kind of fake, things like that. But as we mentioned before, like, you really have to think about how you were in your teens, and like just that kind of, feeling out of place and the desperation of fitting in. Like, there are times when you say shit that you don't mean at all, and like, but you say it because you think it'll make you be cool or look cool to others. And then you realize it totally backfires. Like that happens, man. Like, that's life.
Yeah. And I will say again, like, hats off to the director and producers, writers, anyone who's casting this movie. It felt so well acted. And let me tell you, young actors are difficult to get greatness out of because sometimes they don't have the skill set yet of a mature actor. They have a lot of raw talent, and sometimes raw things just don't fall off the truck the way they're supposed to, and they go the wrong direction with things. And it takes a very patient hand to work with, young actors. These are not like little kids. But they're young actors, and they really mature performances from young actors, which is hard. And then, I feel like Joan Chen's a little underrated.
Oh my God, I love Joan Chen so much. Like, she's so good, and she's like so subtle, especially in this movie, but everything is like impactful.
No, I think she's all time, like one of the real greats of that generation of actors. Like,
yeah.
I think I don't know if I've ever seen her in something. I was like, who wasn't good in this? Joan Chen, she was terrible in this. But she's just real watchable and everything.
Yeah, I absolutely love her. I wish she had more recognition than she does now.
I agree. I think she's like massively underrated, and a great performance here too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm ready to rate it. That was me a long tangent to say yes, we're ready to rate it. Okay. And I'll talk for 10 more minutes.
My rating is Around the World in 80 Days because I found no fault in it.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's great, and I like the use of nostalgia in a way that I wasn't quite expecting when we went in. And again, it wasn't quite our adolescence, but I do remember, MySpace's top 5 or top 8. I do remember people like, oh, I'm not even in your top 8, like that kind of thing. And like the fact that they really zeroed in on all those things.
Yeah. And
the AOL chat windows it was kind of before texting was as popular as it is now, because texting was more difficult.
Yeah.
With the original 1 through 9 keyboard. I know when I said T9, I lost half of our listeners with like, what's that?
Yeah.
But it was AOL chat. It was, you'd go home, you log into your computer.
Well, yeah. It was called AIM at the time.
AOL Instant Messenger. I stand by my usage of the terminology.
Yeah. But it was kind of interesting to see the girls' MySpace page, because it was so like simple and clean. Whereas I remember my MySpace page was so like full of like glitter and sparklies, and like I had a whole section dedicated to Peyton Manning.
Whoa. Learning new things.
No, you knew that.
Peyton Manning on MySpace days, huh?
Yeah. Hell yeah.
I think I gave up on my MySpace, so it was real lazy. Like, I was like really into it for like 2 minutes, and I was like, I gotta add a song, and I gotta add favorite movies, and I gotta choose my top. This seems so exhausting.
I preferred it because you can it's like decorating. So you get to choose like how your page looked and stuff, whereas like Facebook is like boring.
Yeah, very, very McDonald's, very just every page is the same and you just put your things in it.
Yeah. So anyway, so our rec of the week is Saving Face. It is also an American movie, but it's like Chinese American family.
Yeah, written and directed by Alice Wu. Joan Chen is in it.
Joan Chen is in it. She also plays mom. And
Michelle Krusiek, I think is how you pronounce the lead's name.
Yes.
Who was super charming in the movie to me.
Yeah. And it was just it's one of those, it's like a family movie, it also kind of indie film, but we enjoyed it so much, and it was also one of those where like we really couldn't find any fault in it. And I definitely recommend the 2004 American movie, uh, based on a Chinese American family.
Sweet, that does it
Yeah.
for the episode. Thank you so much for listening. If you're not already subscribed here and everywhere else, wherever you're listening, make sure you hit the subscribe button, and then go over to Instagram and follow us there too at DramaMeans_podcast on Instagram, where we post other things. We'll post links to the reels, to the recommendations rather, and all sorts of fun stuff. So hit us up there, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah. Thanks for listening.